Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop. Now, there are a lot of controversial calls this weekend, so we thought we'd kick off the show with Peter Walton. To clear everything up, no arguments. I'm sure it will be very clear, Peter. Let's start with the one that even people in your profession don't seem to be able to agree on, and that is this Harry Kane offside in the lead-up to the penalty, which was, of course, in the end awarded to Spurs in the North London derby. The argument is that Harry Kane isn't offside because he's fouled by Mustafi before he can make any sort of effort to get the ball. Is that the right argument or not?
No, it's the wrong argument. And the law is written in such a way that it covers both categories. So the law is written so that it says, you know, either he goes for the ball or he doesn't go for the ball. Or what comes first, chicken or egg situation. So if you break it down, Harry Kane is in an offside position when the ball's crossed. He doesn't commit the offence until he makes an attempt to jump for the ball or interferes with the opponent jumping for the ball. And I think, as will a lot of referees, he does that before the foul is occurred. So the offside offence comes first, and therefore it was an offside. It should not have been given as a penalty kick.
We're discussing it here, boys. Like, watching it, I just thought, oh, he's offside. It's not even a question. Yeah, obviously this law has been brought to our attention, but it is a bit...
But the argument is he's not at the stage of attempting to play the ball. He's at that point, he has the intent to play it. But this is what was asked about the IFAB at the IFAB meeting a couple of weeks ago. We've been talking about it.
Glasses are on, everyone.
A player in an offside position moving towards the ball with the intention of playing the ball and is fouled in the penalty area before playing the ball, Harry Kane, or challenging an opponent for the ball. What's the decision? And the answer from IFAB was a penalty kick, because the foul occurred before the offside, hence he hadn't made the attempt to play the ball yet. I mean, it's the way the law is written, Pete, is part of the problem.
Yeah, you're quite right. And Craig, I knew he was going to do that because I've got the law in front of me now. And I'll just prove that I can read, and I'll just read the element that you've missed out, which says...
Well, I haven't missed it out, I didn't have it.
Well, hang on. An offence is committed against a player in an offside position who is already playing or attempting to play the ball or challenge an opponent. The offence, or the offside offence, is penalised as it occurs before the foul challenge. My interpretation is Harry Kane is going for the ball, he's beginning to jump for the ball, he's obviously influencing the Arsenal defender because the Arsenal defenders are there as well, so therefore he must have been intending to jump for that ball before Mustafi pushes him in the back.
I agree. I agree, but it is so ambiguous.
Yeah,
but
it is.
The other side of the coin is that if this would only have been only an issue. If it gone to, I was telling you this earlier, if it goes to VAR, this is where, when VAR comes in, assistants are told to keep the flag down on tight incidents like that, let it roll, then go back and check. That's the only reason, the only point it would become a debate. Because without VAR in England at the moment, what should have happened was the linesman was in a good position, which he wasn't, and his flag goes up straight away. And it takes all of this out. This is where the debate has started, because unfortunately the assistant, and you can see from the shots, is peering around the corner. So he's not level, hence the flag doesn't go up. And then we've got all this after. But there's no, I don't know what you think, Shaq, there's no way in the world you can be Harry Kane in there and not affecting the play. It has to be rewritten so that it's much more understanding.
I think quite simply common sense dictates that it's offside. That he starts in an offside position. He's affecting not just what the Arsenal defence does, but the line they have to take to get to the ball. Now, if it's another play and it becomes a second phase of play, now it's a whole other discussion we're having here. But the fact that this ball is direct, nobody touches it before the incident occurs, just pure common sense. Says it's offside.
Let's take it to the other end, shall we? Of course, another penalty. Do you agree? Was this the right decision, Peter, for the Aubameyang foul?
Well, I seem to be fighting against the tide here, because I do think that's a penalty kick. I think Aubameyang has got around the inside. He's got the inside leg there, and as slight as a push is in the back, it is probably enough for a guy who's moving at speed, who's probably not well balanced anyway, to fall over. I think that's a foul, and Anthony Taylor, the referee on the day, gets it right. Although there has been other people saying that he's dived. I don't think he's dived. I think he's been impeded. It's a penalty kick.
Penalty? No, Shane?
Not for me, no. I think, and I understand what Peter's saying. I think Aubameyang does really well with his movement, getting in front of Davinson Sanchez, and the contact that ensues is incidental as per Aubameyang's movement. But at the same time, if you're moving at pace as Aubameyang is, and you're cutting in front of the defender, and that contact is drawn, you understand him going down. So I'm with Peter in that it's not a dive, but for me, not a penalty either.
See, this is one that when it does eventually go to VAR, this will still have people frothing at the mouth.
Because I don't think still a debate. It's subjective.
It's still a debate because I don't think it's a penalty. But I think had that gone to VAR, if they'd had it, I don't think it would have been overturned.
Right.
Because it,
can I just come in there? I just want to come in there, and Craig's exactly right there in his understanding that what VAR should be. VAR is there for the clear and obvious, and for me, it's not a clear and obvious penalty kick. However, it's not a clear and obvious non-penalty kick. So VAR would not have interrupted and would have gone with the on-field decision.
You don't think it was a penalty?
No, the only way that... I don't think it was a penalty, but I don't think it was strong enough to be a penalty, but the only way the VAR would overturn that is if it was able to prove that there was absolutely no contact whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then they would be able to have a definitive no. But as long as there's contact there of some sorts running at pace, I think there'll be a reluctance for the VAR to overturn these incidents.
Let's talk about another incident in the game, Shaka, which you were particularly keen to bring up because it was on a goalkeeper. Danny Rose with that challenge on Bernd Leno. A yellow card was given. You felt it should have been red?
Yeah, that on an outfield player anywhere on the pitch is a red card. It is 3 feet off the ground, leg extended, stud showing, straight into the body. As red cards go, that ticks every single box.
Is he not just going for the ball? Has he not got a right to go for the ball?
Doesn't everybody have a right to go for the ball? If he does that and it catches somebody in the knee, in the middle of the field, does he not equally have a right to go for the ball? Yes, he does. But he catches somebody and he's doing that, he'd be off.
I mean, if you slide in the middle of the park, on Shaq said, on a player, you complete... And I think Danny Rose had every right to go for the ball. I mean, it's just something... And I think there's an unwritten rule that you're allowed to go in and smash a goalkeeper.
Right,
I mean,
that's the thing. Having a right to go for the ball... Having a right to go for the ball doesn't negate everything that happens. Oh, he has a right to go for it.
If you do that in the middle of the park and the guy plants his leg, your opponent plants his leg and his leg's straight, and obviously he catches the keeper in the chest, but if he then goes in and catches a player in the middle of the park and his leg is planted... You know, we're talking about a broken leg here.
Right.
And that's where I've got a problem with this. And
would you have sent him off?
No, because I used to like... Because
you hate goalkeepers, that's why.
I don't think many people look at this as a sending off purely because that's the kind of challenge we put in goalkeepers all the time. I'm not saying it's right, and I think Shaq has a valid argument here to say, what is the difference of doing this on a goalkeeper and doing this on an outfield player? Apart from the fact they're usually big and daft. But that's no argument to say you're allowed to do it.
Peter, should that have been a red?
Well, look, players have to have a responsibility for their actions, and Rose there had every right to go for the ball, absolutely did, but he's gone to it in a reckless manner, which has caused him to receive a yellow card. But if you look at it and you dissect it in slow motion, Shaka's got a point there. You could lay claim for a red card. For me, as a referee, that sort of challenge on a goalkeeper is almost a daily occurrence, and we accept that. Does that make it right? I don't know, to be honest with you. Looking at it in slow motion, it's a red card, but looking at it in real time, it's probably more as a reckless and a yellow card. I think Anthony Taylor was correct, but, you know, you can dissect it as much as you like. I just feel that doesn't warrant a red card.
Told you. You're allowed to do what you want to goalkeepers.
Apparently, that's my big takeaway from this. Do whatever you want to a goalie, it's all right.
We'll end by focusing away from the North London derby. Mario Balotelli, of course, went viral with his celebrations yesterday after scoring and then posting on Instagram the video of his celebrations. From an official's point of view, we know how much you love to poo-poo any sort of happiness on the pitch, you refs. Should he have got booked for this, Peter?
Well, look, you know, choreographed celebrations are not to be encouraged, and they're not to be encouraged because, you know, of time waste and of delaying the restart of the game, and that's the only reason that Balotelli would have received a yellow card, was the fact he delayed the retaking of the game. However, you know, just because he got a selfie done doesn't mean to say he's going to be cautioned. The law doesn't cover that. The law just says he shouldn't be excessive celebrations. So paint your own story there. But Mr. Balotelli does have a bit of previous, so maybe a word in his ear as he goes back to the centre circle.
He's not the first, is he?
What's that?
There's been other players who've...
No, we saw Totti's done a selfie before. I think this is the first one that's been posted on Instagram as an Insta video.
The game's gone, isn't it?
Well, the game's gone. I doubt.
You watch, I mean, half the fans behind that goal. You watch any game now, half of them, they're all standing videoing the bloody game rather than watching it or celebrating.
No, that's a nice thing from Balotelli, isn't it?
Go and celebrate with the fans.
Well, they're too busy filming.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. You're not allowed to do that either. You get a yellow card.
Just a reminder, if you ever miss a show, you can download our daily podcast, which is available on the website. It's the audio version of the programme, plus we chuck some bonus stuff.
Well, that's what a pod is.
What do you mean? Well, it might be
It's an audio version.
Might be a separate one. Might just... It is tight at the top of the Bundesliga. In fact, now Borussia Dortmund level on points with Bayern Munich. Of course, Dortmund losing on Friday. Bayern with that victory, convincing victory as well against Borussia Mönchengladbach, means that it's all to play for in the final stretch of the season as we welcome Raf Honigstein into the show. Raf, who, let's face it, is looking a lot healthier than Peter Walton, but we won't dwell on that. Raf, the big question is, what's happened to Dortmund?
Well, what's happened is I think that injuries at the back have really thrown them off course a little bit. They've made a lot of mistakes. The inexperience that I think wasn't that much of a factor has come to really be a problem. Zagadou, for example, has had a fantastic first half of the season, came back from injury, has made mistakes. Hakimi's made some really bad mistakes. And they're still playing good stuff. They're still creating a lot of chances. But when you can't rely on your defenders, I think there's kind of a nervousness that infects the whole team. And it was just one of those games that they should have never really lost. And, of course, Bayern's sustained a run of good results has now seen that 9-point lead, which they had just before Christmas, gone to 2 goals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, have they blown it? I think it's too early to say, but certainly they've lost the momentum, and Bayern seem to be the team with momentum on their side.
Yeah, you kind of took the question out of my mouth there, Raf. You know, is it over? Are Bayern Munich now just going to steamroll and that's going to be it for the next couple of months?
I don't think so. And the reason for that is that if you look at Dortmund's performances, they haven't been bad. They do create stuff. They have Marco Reus now coming back. He's a big factor for them. Kassa couldn't play as well after Christmas. He's back. So I think that they will continue to win lots of games. And then we've got the big showdown in the first week of April when they travel to Bayern. And at that point, you know, you don't know what happens in the Champions League. Bayern might still be involved. They might be out. Dortmund might probably be out. How is that going to affect the run-in? But I think it's far too early to say this is over, because Bayern themselves have been inconsistent. If you look at the whole season, yes, they're on a good run, but historically, this is still their worst season of the decade or close to it.
For Dortmund, of course, focus turns the Champions League, taking on Spurs tomorrow in the return leg of that fixture that saw them lose 3-0 at Wembley. Spurs 20-1 on to make it through to the next round. Dortmund 10-1. Craig, over the last few weeks, you've been singing from the same hymn sheet, basically saying, hey, this isn't over yet.
I don't think it's as dead a rubber as people would think. I know that's a big shout because it's 3-0, but it's one of the... You know, I know they're having a blip by their standards, and they had a hell of an off night at Wembley against Spurs, and I didn't think his team selection was great anyway, particularly in the forward areas. I know he's got defensive issues. I know Hakimi's having to still play out of position. However, this is one of the greatest stadiums in world football with one of the best atmospheres, and if they get off to a quick start and the crowd get behind them, and we know the kind of football they play, and they get an early goal, I think it could be a difficult night for Tottenham. I'm not suggesting that they're going to haul all the 3 goals back, but I think it's going to be a nervy night for them. I could see Dortmund winning this by a couple, but I still think Tottenham will go through, but I do not think it's just a matter of pitching up, seeing out the 90 minutes and getting back on the plane. I don't think Dortmund are going to allow that.
I just don't see it myself. Listen, as Craig says, if Dortmund scores early, who knows how Spurs react. And Dortmund, on their day, are still a high-scoring team. They can batter you if things go right. The trouble is, and we've seen this over recent weeks, is that defensively, they're just inept. And more to the point, surely Spurs have learned from their exit last season. They have to be able to manage games a whole lot better. Even if you do concede early, that's a message that Pochettino has got to be drumming into the squad right now. Just keep calm, see this game out. Chances will present themselves. Don't panic.
I think Spurs are probably, in all fairness, one away goal away from guaranteeing it.
Sure, because then it's 5.
Guaranteeing it. I think that absolutely guarantees it. And I'm sure Pochettino's saying the same thing. Don't be blasé about this. And don't read into too much the way they played at Wembley or the way they've played recently. Yes, we can get at them, but, you know, let's make sure we're compact here and we play sensibly, because this team, certainly with the players that they've got, can hurt us. And if they do it early, it could make for a long and worrying night for Spurs fans.
Final thoughts on this game with you, Raf?
Well, I agree with Craig. I think this is not a foregone conclusion. If Spurs can beat Dortmund 3-0, I don't see why Dortmund couldn't beat Spurs 3-0. But they need the perfect game, and they need to keep a clean sheet and have that balance, which is really missing in recent weeks. You look at their scoring record at home, it is actually pretty good. Scoring 3 goals would not be out of the ordinary for Lucien Favre's side this season. But it needs to be much better at the back, because 1 goal, I think, would probably kill them. So if everything goes them, it's a perfect game. There's a chance, but I would only give it about 5 to 10%.
Of course, tie tomorrow. Real Madrid taking on Ajax at the Bernabeu. Real Madrid 2-1 up against Ajax going into the second leg. It's not a foregone conclusion, though, considering what we've seen from Madrid of late. We won't talk about that game, though. We'll talk about Xhaka's friend, Jonathan Barnett, who used to be Xhaka's agent back in the day. Of course, is in charge of Gareth Bale. And he was not impressed with the fans who, of course, booed Bale as he was substituted in the Clasico at the weekend, saying they should be ashamed of themselves. Those fans should be kissing his feet. Gareth deserves the greatest of respect. The way Real Madrid fans have treated him is nothing short of a disgrace.
Yeah.
Is Bale, would you be happy if your agent is coming out? Because from the outside, I'm thinking, what good could this possibly do?
Not a whole lot, in all honesty. And as far as Gareth Bale goes, you know, he's in it deeply enough as it is. This doesn't help, but I don't think it'll get a whole lot worse for Gareth Bale. From an agent perspective, from Jonathan Barnett's perspective, he's trying to defend his client as best he can. But again, not that I agree with it, not that I think it helps. It's one I'm struggling to explain.
He's an intelligent man, clearly. Yes. You know, he's got all these players. What do you think the fans are going to read? He goes, you know what? Jonathan Barnett's right. We really should start respecting his client.
What he has to say is not about the fans. It's not about Real Madrid fans at all. It's about Gareth Bale. And it's about trying to establish with Gareth Bale in himself that he's valued or should be valued and that the fans are wrong. This is not about telling the fans they're wrong. This is about telling Gareth Bale that the fans are wrong.
It's two-way street here. I've always said it. And look, whilst Bale is clearly not performing to the standard we know he can, and he's had huge success at Real Madrid, the fans have, rightly or wrongly, always been on his back, right? Now, the two-way street is that no matter what you think of a player, how much he gets paid, what his achievements have been, how much he cost, if you continue to whistle and boo a player, that player will not perform to the levels that he's capable of in the following weeks, because there's something in every player, and I include the messes of this world, called confidence. Now, some players are affected by it differently, but let me tell you, I've been in a stadium where my own fans have booed me, right? Because we were in a relegation battle, because I was the captain, I was the senior player. And it affects you. It affects your morale, it affects your confidence. So it's a no-win situation here. I understand frustration of supporters, but if you think he's going to play better by whistling and booing him constantly, whether he's warming up, playing or coming off, it's not going to work. And for those people out there that say, well, he earns, £300,000 a week and he cost $100 million, he shouldn't be affected by this. He's a human. And players are affected. And so it's a difficult situation because it's not going to stop. But let me tell you, as much as Gareth Bale will say, no, it doesn't affect me, as a player, it does.
They've whistled everyone. The Stefano Ronaldo, of course, over the years.
And people deal with it differently.
Yeah.
You know, Xhaka as a goalkeeper, if he's getting booed, he comes out, he's nervous about making the next catch, if indeed he bothered to come off his line. You know, it affects... You know, people that think because these are multi-millionaire players these days that are not affected by confidence, when opposing fans give you stick, it matters not a jot. Most horrendous stick. Brush it off. When your own fans are doing it on a regular basis.
I think at this point as well, everybody kind of accepts that Gareth Bale is going to be leaving Real Madrid sooner rather than later.
Barnett said he's not going anywhere.
Again,
is this agency?
I believe so. And I think everybody accepts that Gareth Bale is going to be gone sooner rather than later. What you don't want is him taking this lack of confidence or this dented confidence to this new club. You want him to arrive there feeling that he was every bit worth the 90 million or whatever it was. The fans are the ones who got this wrong. So
it's Real Madrid against Ajax tomorrow. Bale may or may not. Welcome to Extra Time. You join us just that little bit too late because IFAB are changing the rules so a goalkeeper can only have 1 foot on the line, if he wishes, during a penalty shootout. Craig was trying to emulate what that would look like. Do you want to give us another... No?
You missed a chance. I could have recorded it.
Could have recorded it. That's it.
I'll give you a show. Sleeping in the gallery. Can't help that. It's not my business.
Who's got a better chance of winning their league title, Dortmund or Liverpool?
Ooh, Liverpool.
Dortmund are level now, aren't they? Is Dortmund buying level at 54?
Yeah, Dortmund level on points.
Speaking of
Liverpool one behind.
I would say Liverpool as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I get a feeling Bayern are going to push now to the end.
Right.
I still think Liverpool... I mean... They're not favourites now. I don't know how anybody can say they're favourites, but
they weren't favourites before.
They're not dying a death. They're just going to pick themselves up from this. And I don't buy the bottling it either. They're not bottling it. They've just got certain players. Right. Players are there. They're having a bad time. In fact, a bit of bad form. And Klopp's substitutions aren't great either. And his team selection, apart from that, it's going swimmingly.
That's great.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't get Origi starting full stop, but I certainly didn't get him starting on the left. And then I didn't get Shaqiri not getting used, right, when clearly he's been a big player for them in the first half of the season off the bench. So, and we've seen Klopp's frustrations at Old Trafford in the previous few days. We saw it again at the weekend. He's now starting to smart with the journalist about anybody's asking him a question. God knows what would happen if he came on here. He'd probably have you for dinner. So that's all kind of bubbling over at the moment.
That's a long answer, isn't it? Right, Peter.
I'll keep it short.
How do you blend common sense with strict rules as a referee? Peter Walton's here, by the way.
Laws, son.
I remember Clattenburg saying he used common sense when possible, and as a fan, I appreciated it.
Yeah, that's a dangerous line to go down, to be honest with you, because fans and players and managers will say, well, where's consistency? And you get consistency if you follow the law. If you follow the law, then, you know, that breeds consistency. However, interpretation of the law is quite wide, and you can use some common sense for various situations. But ultimately, if you stick with the law, you won't go far wrong.
What common sense and what? Because common sense and not maybe bringing the yellow cards out too early in the game, or because it's a big derby.
Well, you know, you say, but you know, you referee a game as it's put in front of you, and you only have a few tools in your bag to control players with, and one is the yellow cards, one is your body language, one's your talking. So, you know, it's down to that referee on the day how he deems it fit to control the players and to let the game flow. And as part of that, sometimes, you know, you use this word common sense, but that is just in the context of the game. Stick to the law, that's what I say.
Yeah, what if you forget your yellow cards, Peter? What do you do?
Yes, OK, we won't go there.
I wasn't actually having a go at you there, Pete. I was going to roll it round to Mark Clattenburg, but you're a bit touchy on that subject at the moment, I'll tell you. But...
Shaka, would Craig or Peter be more fun at Carnival?
Oh,
I've seen some interesting videos today that you were showing me. From
yes, I'll go for Craig.
Yes.
How many Peronis? I'll get a few Peronis. Did I have Peroni?
Peter just come back from Spain, as we've learned.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like he ventured past his balcony. So I'm not sure how that works in Carnival, in all honesty.
Peter wouldn't get a nice tan?
Whereas Craig would just tell us about he couldn't remember having dinner last night, which fits right in with Carnival.
I'm so pleased you picked him, you know, rather than me.
To be fair, though, Peter does enjoy reading a good book. To be fair, my wife made soup last night, a nice soup last night, and I said to her...
How do you know it was nice?
Huh?
How do you know it was nice?
She told
Well,
him.
apparently I had it, but
She had a few bowls, but she had to tell
I
him.
said to her this morning, how did that soup turn out? And she went, well, you were eating it.
Oh,
No
dear.
recollection.
Right, who would win
A day off yesterday, saying I was watching the golf, Honda Classic, chilling out with my beers.
Good. Who would win a 40-yard dash now?
Ooh.
Blimmin' heck.
Well,
Between who?
Between who?
Like you lot.
I'm backing myself here.
You can't run. Stevie can't run. Robbo can't run.
I think Shaq would have a chance.
Shaq.
Ali's quick over 2 yards. His whole
40
career.
yards, eh?
Yeah, it was,
Well,
made a career of being quick over 2 yards.
I think Ali would be quick over the start.
Right.
But he's carrying a bit of timber these days.
Yeah.
So the parachute would come
Yeah.
quickly. My knees and back, I just can't do it.
Maris might win by a nose.
Well, Maros is already over the finish line before he starts. Nickel wouldn't...
I used to see you in the gym last year. What happened?
Got bored. The gym is so boring.
Well, I think you'll find I was on that machine again today.
Oh, God.
Without any earphones.
Peter, do you still keep fit? How's your 40-yard dash?
Yeah, 40-yard dash is it's slowing down nowadays, I must admit. And, you know, the knees are not as they were. But I went to the same gym as Craig did when I was over in America. And he went straight to that machine. He went straight to that machine in the gym, which got pop and crisps and cakes in. So I didn't quite know what he was using it for.
No, you're pop. What's pop? You're right.
That's not the Craig I know, Peter.
You want to see me?
Oh,
See him
my
at the gym.
goodness.
He's very angry at himself.
I'm not angry. I put a towel over the thing and I get in the zone.
Blindfolds himself so he can't see the clock.
And I don't see the clock. And I don't listen to anything. I just get zoned in. And I did 40 minutes a day.
And what's the rhetoric in your head? What's going on in your head when you're doing that?
So I'm like...
What's going on in Craig's head? What's going on in Craig's head anytime?
You're going to get banned from the gym with that face.
I work hard.
If you had to choose one of the ESPN FC crew to take a penalty, Peter, with your life on the line, goodness me,
Oh,
it's
my
so
word.
intense. Who would you choose? Shaka is in goal.
Well, if Shaq is in goal, then I've got to say it'd be Alejandro. because he's got, as Craig said there, he's got a little bit of timber behind him now, so he'd pack a good punch. So I think he'd smash it in.
Wow. I think out of everyone, you were the only really, like, the main penalty taker.
Did Nickel not take penalties?
No, Nickel took the one in the Champions League final, didn't he? He missed that.
Yeah. I used to take them for Celtic, and I didn't take them at Chelsea because Dennis Wise took them.
Yeah.
But I took them at Celtic in the year we won the title, and I took them at Derby. That was I tell you, I don't know, it was a lot more pressure to take them at Derby because they were in relegation trouble.
Sure.
And I took, obviously, as you know, I took 3 penalties in a Premier League game.
Yes, and you scored 2, but missed the last.
Scored 2 and missed the last. And when Sergio Aguero did it a couple of years ago, he also missed one of the 3, and I think Gerrard did it as well.
There you
So
go.
nobody's ever done it. And I
So, Aguero, Gerrard, Burley. You often hear those 3 names
They
in the
just
same
roll off
sentence.
the tongue. I used to take penalties when I was in college.
Did you?
Yeah.
Any good?
As a
giving you
goalie.
fact.
I only missed one. Scored about
I missed
4.
the 3rd one. I tried to go down the middle and I dragged it.
Oh, what a shame.
Alan Wilkie was it Alan Wilkie? Is that the right
Alan Wilkie, yeah.
Yeah. Alan Wilkie was refereeing and he blew his whistle for me to take it, and I was like, hold on, Alan. I haven't got a clue where I'm putting this one. And they do say you should never. Some managers say you should never take 2 penalties in a game, never mind 3.
Did you have your weird face on? Did you have your gym face on as you were doing the run-up?
Put a towel over the goal. Still missed.
ESPN FC then, we are back tomorrow.
We drew 4-4, by the way, thanks for asking.
What was that?
We drew 4-4 that game, thanks for asking.
Oh, it's all right.
It's on YouTube somewhere.
Yep. Good. There's a big IFAB meeting going on in Scotland this weekend. So big, in fact, Shaka wasn't invited. Looking at potential changes to the wording of the laws for the start of the new season. A big one on handballs. David Ellery came out and said, we've changed it to say the body has a certain silhouette. So if the arms are extended beyond the silhouette, then the body is being made unnaturally bigger. Now, the purpose of it being, so you won't see anymore, a bigger barrier to the opponent of the ball. Players should be allowed to have their arms by their side. It's their natural silhouette. Should we start with Peter?
Yeah, start with Peter.
Yeah, go with Peter.
Peter, do you like this wording? Does this make it easier for officials?
It makes it slightly easier. I don't think it's the be-all and end-all of that handball. We'll still be having our debates, of course. But what it's saying is that, you know, defenders, what we're seeing now, are putting their hands behind their backs. Really, that is such an unnatural position anyway. And that's been ruled out. What they're saying is that if it's a silhouette, so if their hands are by their sides, then that's fine. And if the ball hits their arms or their hand, it's not to be decreed as a penalty kick or a free kick. It's where the hand comes out here, higher. That's where, you know, handballs still will be given.
As players, would you like this? Does this make more sense?
It's still grey.
It's not as grey, is it though?
Well,
you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this anymore.
That's my big thing.
How far does it? How far?
What, just your natural silhouette, just there.
Hands by your side.
Yeah, just by your side.
I like.
It's not natural. That's not natural.
But that's your natural silhouette.
But what it does is it takes away you having, or defenders thinking that they have to put their arms behind their back, which is desperately unnatural.
Right.
So I like the wording of it. I like what it's trying to achieve. Yes, we'll still have debates because that's what we do and that's what the game throws up. But it makes a lot of sense for me to phrase it this way.
But I'll come back on that because there's a good postscript to this, is that IFAB also said that a goal cannot be scored even if the ball accidentally hits your arm or hits your hand. So what they're saying is you cannot gain an advantage with a goal with the ball striking your arm or hand. So I think that's a good area, because we've seen many times this season. I think Aguero had one for Manchester City only a few weeks ago, where he's falling on his back and he's accidentally hit the ball with his arm and it's gone in the net and a goal was awarded. Next season, or from the 1st of June, that will not be given, and I think that's quite right.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, but didn't you say this last year, Pete? You're ahead of the game, son. Didn't you say this?
Well,
didn't you say this last year when I think Alexis Sanchez scored the goal at the Etihad, at the Emirates? I think it was against Man United, and you said the goal was right to be chopped off because it had a material effect in the outcome, hence it went in the goal. So was that kind of not always in play anyway?
Absolutely, absolutely right there, Craig. And what I was saying then was what football wanted, and that's what we interpreted the law as it stood, or as it stands at the moment. And it was my own interpretation to say that, you know, you can't have a material gain with a handball, and a goal is a material gain, so it must be chalked off. Whether I was ahead of the curve, I don't think so. It was just the interpretation given worldwide, by the way, on handball, but wasn't written.
Pete, I have to tell you, there was lots of irony in that statement as well, embellishment. But no, I mean, that's common sense.
Yes,
I mean, it's clear common sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Other changes, IFAB is saying substitutes will have to leave the pitch at the nearest goal line or touch line instead of coming over to the halfway line. This makes sense, doesn't it? It saves everyone a bit of time.
No, it doesn't.
What do you mean it doesn't?
Well,
yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Why not?
Well, listen.
If I'm there on the other side of the pitch and then I have to trot over for 20 seconds, right, well, surely it's easier just to go like that.
Would a better way to do this, not to, unless the player has a clear injury, to give any player when the board goes up, to give them a time frame of, say, 10 seconds or so to get off the pitch, otherwise they'll get a booking. I tell you why. If you're saying they have to leave at certain areas, particularly in away grounds, particularly in volatile atmospheres or depending on what's happened in a game, the incitement that will give to the fans, as well as the stick and the abuse the player's going to get, is, I think, going to be detrimental to a player walking off at certain grounds with 20,000 in a stand and some of them late in the game frothing at the mouth. I think that could be slightly problematic for that player.
Peter, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I agree with Craig there, although it will be down to the referee's discretion where that player should leave the field. And if he feels the player's over the far side just because he feels there might be a little bit of time wasting there, he'll say to the guy, you know, to go off from that position there. But as Craig said, if there's something happening in the crowd, if it's an away player with a volatile crowd there, then common sense will say that he'll bring him off at the safest area. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's a good law if we're looking for time keeping, but maybe it needs just to be looked at and defined a little bit better when it comes to security and crowd issues.
We discussed this at the last advisory panel meeting, as I was telling you, Dan. And
Shaka is on the IFAB advisory board.
Yes, yes. And I have to admit, I was the only one who had an issue with this. For a few reasons, it just didn't make an awful lot of sense to me. One, as Craig just mentioned. The other for me is, if a player is substituted on the far side of the field, let's say opposite side to the linesman, and he's wearing his full kit as he will be as he's just come off, and he stands in a position that makes it difficult for the linesman to see exactly who's on the field, judge offsides, and etc. I think it can become problematic. All that being said, as I mentioned, I was the sole voice in on this because everybody felt that the timekeeping or time-wasting element of it outweighed any chance of that being detrimental.
That shows the weight you have, Shaq.
Yes.
Well, that's what happens when you pitch up now and again. I don't understand. I mean, I know we don't want to see it, and I know sometimes it's frustrating to watch players walk off slowly. I've done it myself. But the referee, and I know sometimes it can affect the pace of the game, and the crowd get frustrated. But the referees add that on. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's not. The guy's taking 30 seconds or 20, 40 seconds to walk off, and he's not going to add that on. The referees and the assistants, the fourth official, already add that on. It's just the fact it's a pain in the backside because you won't watch the guy going off. It doesn't affect greatly the timekeeping of the game. It's not a major disaster. What
else has stood out for you, Peter? Well, there's talk of there'll be no attacking players allowed in a defensive wall.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I mean, the only reason you see attacking players go into a defensive wall is to disrupt the defence and disrupt the focus and concentration of the defence. So to take that away from the referee, I think it's good. So from next year or from next season, you'll see attackers a metre away from the defensive wall, which I think is a good way.
Like it?
I'm neither here nor there with that, to be honest.
Are you here or there?
Not particularly. I think players do that now. You go into wall. You go into a wall. If you're attacking,
you always see the attackers kind of there.
Yeah, you go into a wall and defenders will have their way with you, for want of a better phrasing.
Like push you away, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, you get your toes stood on. There's all sorts of naughtiness goes on in those incidents. And if you're sensible, you stand a metre away anyway.
Speaking of naughtiness...
In terms of the laws of the game, in terms of the laws of the game and things that they need changing, that's one of those that's right down the bottom.
Yeah, I think they are...
That's ripping the backside out of your free trip to an IFAB meeting to try and justify why you're there, 0.100.
What about the goalkeeper for the penalty shootout now having 1 foot on the line?
Yeah, that makes total sense because we're talking about natural movements and etc. To have 1 foot either in the air or straddling the line is just kind of natural to how goalkeepers dive anyway, so it makes sense.
And then any time
I missed that one. Because clearly I've not read the things. But what's that one?
So when you're taking a penalty kick...
It's not difficult.
The law previously stated that you have to have both feet on the line or over the line. Now the law is being changed so that you only need to have 1 foot on or over the line.
Here you go. Goalies. Yeah. And Pete, is it right that suggests as well that if your penalty is saved, you can't score the rebound?
That's right, yes. If the penalty is saved or it comes off the post, you don't have a second attempt at it. So, you know, the game is stopped at that moment.
Why?
Well, because you have all these... Let's take the game from last Saturday, the Arsenal-Spurs game, where Vertonghen is encroached into the area and hasn't been picked up. Those sort of things, and you have a melee. IFAB are looking to clean the game up, basically, and they're saying that a penalty kick is your strike on goal, and if you miss it for whatever reason, you don't have a second attempt.
Yeah, you don't, but others can have a second attempt, correct?
Other people can, but you can't.
But you can't.
That seems weird.
Do you know what the problem is
in that incident that Peter's quoting there, the ball didn't fall directly back to Aubameyang.
No, it didn't.
It went wide.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't fall into this remit. Yes, but to Peter's point, as far as this law change goes, it doesn't apply.
I think you've got to be careful to a certain extent. I mean, I'm sorry to get off a different subject here, but they've changed a lot of the laws in golf recently, and it's a dog's dinner at the moment when the professionals are playing. You watch it on TV. PG in America, they've changed a lot of these rules, and I'm telling you...
But these rules aren't that complicated.
The ones in golf aren't that complicated, but it's a dog's dinner at the moment. The players are getting affected by it, the caddies are getting affected by it. So all I'm saying is, you've got to be careful with this change.
They're not big changes, are they?
They're not big changes.
Who's going to make a dog's dinner of this?
You've seen Peter Walton and his colleagues refereeing? Those referees can make a dog's dinner of anything.
Oh, my right? Nick Faldo over there.
You complicate things. All I'm saying is, even simple changes to the laws can have confusing complications, right? Just because you don't watch golf, I'll watch it. I see it.
We've got to go, apparently. We wasted too much time talking about the golf. Thank you very much to Peter Walton. Always good to have you on, mate. Much appreciated. Champions League, of course, back tomorrow. Spurs Dortmund, isn't it? The big one. We'll, of course, be reflecting on that. Plus Ajax against